Hello guys, how are all of you beautiful people? Hope all of you are doing fine. And yes, this is the next part of Multiverse of Marvel. When a cinephile and an otaku / weeb travels through dimensions and gets a system which can only be described as overpowered but comes with restrictions. At first he was overjoyed with the system but soon realizes that he is in a very dangerous world where his life was at risk all the time. So without any delay, let's start the video. After talking about other small things for few more minutes, he asked her to send him back to New York. She drew a gateway which led to New York Sanctum. After saying goodbye to Master Drum and coming out of the door, he went back to his home with B. He finally had relief on his face as he wouldn't have to care about bringing the characters to life. He had been stressed out about this for such a long time and now finally he was at peace. It was already afternoon when he came back home and started making plans for future. In 2 months' time the story of Naruto would end, and after that he could bring the whole world to life. He had asked the system if he could hide their villages when they would be brought to life, and the system replied that the world which will be brought to life will always be in their own dimension and nothing can detect their presence. This dimension would be present in this world but in a different plane. And only the characters of that world could travel back and forth between the real world and their own dimension. This information gave him relief as he wasn't sure if he could hide the villages from satellites. John could divide the dimensions in any way he pleases, and this too would be of great help to him. As he was thinking of what steps to take in future, it was already evening and his father came back from work. As soon as his father got inside the garage, he saw 2 Camaro. He was surprised to see 2 cars of same color and design in the garage. What did this child do now? 2 cars of same model and even same license plate. Did he do something illegal? Jameson was skeptical because all these years his son had never done anything bad. Even though he always came up with weird ideas, he never did anything outside the legal line. Now after seeing the 2 cars he needed to make things clear. After coming inside he went straight to the room of John only to see him sitting and closing his eyes as if in a deep thought. Why are there 2 cars of same model and license plate in the garage? Did you do something illegal? You better not have any bad ideas or I will send you to police myself. I don't remember Chevrolet having any deal which stipulates them to give us a Camaro, Jameson asked his son with some anger. John, who was dozing off a little, opened his eyes at once. No Dad, there is nothing illegal. But yes, there is a reason for 2 cars in the garage. Sit down Dad, I have something to speak to you about. John said with a sigh. What he feared had come to reality. Soon in a year the world is going to change and he needed to keep his family away from harm. Valentina had gone to her native home after coming back from LA, so the father and son duo were alone for these few days so John could speak with complete privacy. Even though John trusted Val, he didn't want her to be exposed to the world of danger yet. Dad, please switch off your phone, then I will talk about the car. Even though Jameson didn't understand why his son asked him to do that, but he obliged. John didn't want Zola to listen to the upcoming conversation. He wasn't sure if Zola or S.H.I.E.L.D. listened to their conversations, but he didn't want to take any risk now. Dad, do you remember that I once told you that this world isn't simple? That it's beautiful and dangerous? John asked. Huh? You did say that, but what about it? The world has always been like this. What's new to it? Jameson asked. He wasn't sure what John meant by that. No Dad, you are not understanding my point. I meant that there are people here who have extraordinary powers, aliens who roam the universe and even people from different universes, John said with sincerity. Jameson's eyes went wide when he heard this. He didn't believe it. What nonsense are you speaking? Are you weaving lies to fool me and divert my attention from the car in the garage? No, Dad. Just listen to me. This world is really not simple. Humans have already come in contacts with aliens years ago. Even thousands of years ago aliens have visited our planet and many people have special powers in this world itself. Trust me, Dad. Whatever I am saying is 100% truth, John said. Fine, even if I believe you for a second, what does it have to do with the car in the garage? Jameson asked. Dad, did you really think the movie Transformers was just a movie? John asked with a smirk in his face. After hearing this, Jameson almost jumped in his seat. Being the head of a news agency, he knew what the words meant. Don't tell me the car in the garage is Bumblebee? Jameson asked with wide eyes. Yes, that car is the real Bumblebee. If you don't believe me, come with me. I will show you, John said. After that, the father-son duo went to the garage and John said, B, you can transform yourself. My dad wants to talk to you. After that, what Jameson saw, he would never forget in his entire life. Even though in the future he will come in contact with many extraordinary things, but the transformation of B was what changed his perception of world forever. After seeing the whole process of majestic transformation with parts of the car separating and moving to random direction of the body and finally seeing a crouched B, he was dumbfounded in his spot. In his whole life he never believed in weird stories, but today his life perspective took a major turn. See, Dad, I didn't lie. B, this is my father. You can say hello. Hello, Mr. Jameson. It's nice to meet you. B said in a metallic tone. Jameson couldn't even speak for few seconds, but finally out of habit he said, hello. It's nice to meet you. He then suddenly thought of something and asked John, wait, if there is B, that means there is Megatron and Decepticons. We should talk about this with the military. Dad, that's the other part I want to talk about. Let's go back home. We have lots to discuss. B, you can transform into the car. Thank you, John replied. After coming back to room, they sat down opposite to each other and John continued. The movies are just that. Some movies. There are some truth to the movies, but many of it isn't true. I just made a story out of it. B actually doesn't belong to our universe. Have you heard the theory of parallel universe? It's like for every decision you make, there is an alternate reality where you didn't take the corresponding choice, and due to that there is another universe out there. There is no Cybertron in this universe, well, at least not that I know of. He is the first person to come to our universe, but he won't be the last, John continued. Jameson's mind was blown away by all this information. This world had suddenly changed for him and he wasn't sure what to do with it. Parallel universe. Aliens. Was it all real or was he just dreaming? Jameson now was in a huge dilemma. Being a journalist by heart, he felt that the people should know the truth of this story, but there was this safety of the family, because he knew a being like B will arouse jealousy instantly from the world and B would be subjected to experiments. John could see the struggle in his eyes and he knew what his father was thinking. Living with him for such a long time, he could understand his father. Don't worry, Dad. Soon you will be able to publish about these beings in your newspapers. People does have the right to know, but the time is not now. I will tell you when the time is right, John added. Okay, fine, I trust you. Who are the next people coming? Optimus Prime? Jameson asked. No, for now there will be no one from Cybertron. But yes, I have the cube in my hand. I will help you transform your mobile and your car for your safety, John said. What? Really? Oh my God. With the cube we won't have to fear anything. We can rule the world. But will you be able to control them? I remember that the transformed Nokia mobile was pretty violent, Jameson asked. Dad, I told you. Movies are just movies. Reality is different. Fix-It come out. Fix-It is the mobile I transformed. Now, give me your mobile, John said after bringing the cube from the corner of the room and showing him Fix-It. Jameson was excited seeing the cube. As a man, he too loved robots and machines. Now all his dreams will become a reality. He was already dreaming of his own self-driven intelligent car. Soon Fix-It transformed and exchanged greetings while John transformed Jameson's mobile and named it Jetstorm after another mini-cons. Dad used a Nokia phone, so the body structure of Jetstorm was different. It looked more humanoid than Fix-It. But it didn't matter to him. After transforming Dad's car and naming it Hotshot, they both returned home after giving general instructions. Dad, I hope you treat Jetstorm and Hotshot like a family. They are a living being and I don't want them to feel lonely. Don't worry about that, kid. Beings like them I will treasure more than I treasure you. Ha ha ha, all my dreams will come to life now, Jameson laughed. John just smiled seeing his father's enthusiasm. Dad, the world will change soon and I hope you will pay attention to your own safety. As I said, this world isn't simple. Soon everything will change. John said with solemnness. Kid, how do you know about all these secrets and what's your connection to the people of other universe? Jameson asked with curiosity. Dad, didn't I tell you that there are people with special powers? I am also one of them. Many times I dream of various stories and from these dreams I get to know the people from other universes. And from them I get to know who will enter into our universe, John replied. Even though John said some lies mixed with truth, there was no malice in it. He wouldn't be able to explain many bits if he didn't lie to him based on some vague truth and didn't want his family to be in dark. He didn't want to hide himself in and operate behind the shadows. It was never his intention. His system didn't allow him to hide. The more people knows about his summons, the more he will acquire fan values. Truth to be told, John had some doubt about himself. He thought that after bringing Bumblebee, the TVA, Time Variance Authority, will come after him, yet surprisingly they didn't. He guessed it was maybe because B and others don't belong to this universe and TVA can't look into the future of a new universe which is separated from Marvel Universe. And for the topic of him not being persecuted, it was probably due to the shielding function of the system. After explaining some things to his father and talking about some small matters, John and Jameson both went to their respective rooms. John fell asleep as soon as he hit the bed. He was tired from running around all day and the mental pressure that he had to face for the last few years. Tonight finally he could rest in peace and have a sound sleep. After 3 months, the series of Naruto finally ended in May. John went to Japan to congratulate the team for such a massive success. John even attended party with Val in Japan with all the members of the studio. Everybody was very happy with their success and felt a sense of accomplishment as they made a wonderful story come to life. John even made sure that the entry of Madara in the Great War was kept a secret. He didn't include Kaguya's story at the end because John had always felt that the story of Kaguya was just a stretch and the last fight between Madara and the Shinobi was basically the copy of the fight between Kaguya and the 7th team. People loved the ending of the series and the ratings of the series went pretty high, reaching 8.9 in IMDb. Being a series released in seasons format, people all over the world loved it even more than the actual version, as the actual version had too many fillers. After attending the banquet and coming back to the hotel, John checked his fan values. Ding! Total fan value, 1.9 billion. I would like to bring the Naruto world to life, John said excitedly. Ding! The Naruto world is brought to life according to the wishes of the host, but the world wouldn't have the character of Kaguya. The host can bring all the characters to life, including the dead ones. The dead ones will require separate fan values. And since it is the host's first world, the world is calculated as a discounted price. The later world's price will be much higher. It must be mentioned that the host can transform himself to any character he wishes to from the world of Naruto while not affecting the character in the real world. Total number of fan values, 200 million. John was ecstatic when he heard it, as he could bring all the characters to life except for the dead ones in the story. Transform myself to Naruto Uzumaki. He realized he had become a little tall wearing a white cloak. John felt himself powerful. He could even feel a seal inside his body, and when he concentrated his mind on the seal he could see the nine tails sleeping. When he went to the mirror to see himself, he looked like the real version of Naruto with whiskers on either side of the cheeks. He noticed that he could feel many things around himself and the people around the hotel. As he came near the mirror he saw that he was wearing a yellow jacket and black pants. Change myself to Sasuke Uchiha, and now he had long hair covering one eye. He tried to summon Susanoo on his hand and even tried using Mangekyo Sharingan. He could feel that if he used all his powers he could even destroy a city instantly. Of course John wouldn't do that, because that would only mean death of innocents and destruction. John wasn't a villain who would do such despicable things. The moment when John turned himself Naruto, thousands of miles away in Kametage, the Supreme Mage turned towards the western direction. Her eyes squinted for a bit, but then a smile came to her lips. The boy has finally grown up. Now I am not even sure if I could defeat him. It's fortunate that he is on our side. The world is going to change soon and he will be the forefront of it. It's a pity that I might not be able to see it, she said to herself. Even Odin from Asgard sensed a strong power from Midgard and tried peeping into it. The Ancient One sensed this and deflected Odin's sense, as she didn't want any misunderstanding. Odin understood that the new power was under the control of the Ancient One, so he took his sense back and he didn't care after that. John was jumping in joy in his room. He had never been so happy in both of his lives combined. After trying out all his powers for few minutes, he calmed himself down. He knew he would have to settle the world that he extracted in a balanced way. I want to bring Minato to this world, without Nine Tails Chakra, John said at the end, as that was one of his favorite characters and it was 200 million fan value. The values of Madara and others were higher than 1 billion. He didn't have that many fan values. Soon a handsome man with blonde hair wearing a jacket and a white cloak over appeared. He was so ecstatic that he almost screamed in joy. The next day John and Val flew home to New York. After coming back, John immediately went to his room and closed all the doors and windows and asked Val not to disturb him. She felt weird to this request but didn't ask about it. After coming to his room he immediately summoned all the present Kages to life and shared his memories with them as soon as they were summoned. Naruto, Hokage, Kurotsuchi, Sasuke, Gaara, Kazekage, Darue, Reikage, Chojuro, Mitsukage, were the present Kages and they had a look of astonishment in their faces. They didn't understand at first what actually happened, but soon due to the sharing of memories they figured out the whole ins and outs. Due to the influence of the system they had absolute obedience to John, but John left almost full autonomy to them. John didn't have a weird fetish to rule over Naruto world as he had other things to do. Welcome my friends to the new world. I would be needing your advice and help in this dangerous world, John announced to them. Well, this world is new. And it looks interesting. I am looking forward to the exciting new world, Naruto said. This world looks dangerous too with such powerful beings in the universe, Chojiro said shyly. He had always been shy and low in confidence, so he mentioned the insecurities first. It doesn't matter, we are already here and for the first time we are not at top of the food chain, Derue lamented on this fact. Whatever the future holds, we will have to face it and defeat the enemies, and that can only be done by joining hands and being united, Gaara added in a cold voice. Well, our villages need to be strong enough. We will have to start preparation for the upcoming battles, Kurotsuchi said. John was looking at these legendary characters and was in awe again by the power of the system. He thanked his lucky stars for allowing him to see such characters in real life. John shared the memories of what the future would look like and the dangers they would be facing. Well, John, the first hope you have a place for the village to settle down. Because we would need preparation. Naruto said. Of course I have a place. All your countries will be separated and spread out in different parts of the planet, and you all would be living in separate dimensions. I know this sounds like a jail, but it's not time yet to show your heads. When the opportunity arises, I will help you connect to the World Council and you all can negotiate a deal with them. Is that fine? John asked. This use of dimensions comes when a world is bought. It can be divided in multiple smaller dimensions or kept as a whole. The size of the dimension would be exactly like their original world that is bought and even look and function the same. The dimension could be placed at any location of the planet he was in at that moment. John really felt that the system was too overpowered at times. Sure. Where will you place each country? Gaara asked. Konohagakure will be placed in Japan. Tsunagakure will be placed in Egypt. Kirigakure will be placed in Britain. Kumogakure will be placed here in USA and Iwagakure will be placed in Chile. The respective countries will follow the same pattern. I hope you all are happy with it. There might be little difficulty for some time because of no trade between countries, but I hope you all understand. And all this arrangement will be temporary, John said. We don't have any problems with this arrangement and we trust you, Kurotsuchi said. Since it's been decided, I will send you all on your ways. John said. After asking the system to make separate dimensions and sending them to different countries and sending all the people of the countries and ninjas to their respective places, John sighed in relief. Finally he had a background to face the world. Soon the people of the Naruto world came to life and they realized that the world had changed and have come to a new world. John didn't share all the future memories with the normal people as that would raise panic. He just made them understand that this was a new world. The people were already stressed thinking about this new world, but they calmed down soon as they saw all the Kijis and the ninjas helping them understand the new world. John didn't bring the small countries to life because that might be fatal and can lead to many problems because of no sustenance from neighboring countries. Even though John could control the lives and death of the world, but he didn't choose to do so. He felt everybody should go through a cycle of life and death. Only that would bring colors to the lives of everyone. He would bring all the remaining villages to life after a deal is reached with the World Council. Before that he would have to wait. The whole year of 2007 went by and nothing much happened in this regard. All the villages and their countries settled as they were. They actually didn't have to move from their places. And there were just subtle changes in the environment. And all the kidges with the help of the lords of respective countries brought peace back to the nations. Only the trade matters were just affected a bit, but the countries handled it well while giving sufficient relief to the masses. John knew this was the last year of peace. In the last few months John tried everything possible to amass more influence on the world. Working on animated movies and giving ideas to Google, Facebook, Twitter and all the companies he had under him. He even attended the shareholders' meeting of Amazon and proposed some of his ideas. His idea of online marketing while cooperating with local shops and dealers was greatly appreciated by the board. Even though the execution of the idea would take time to implement, but at least the process had started. By now John had enough influence on the whole world and had done so much charity that no governments dare to stop his influence or restrict him via arbitrary laws, as such process would massively backfire, as the general public won't accept sanctions against him. And on other side, even though his valuation had risen to $80 billion, he never tried to influence any governments and gladly accepted all the laws of various countries while conducting his business. Thus John was loved by all as opposed to Tony, as he was hated in many countries. Being an arms dealer does have a huge downside. There had been even debates on the fact of who was more influential among the two. Kevin had already started filming the movie that John had asked for, and it would release by the mid of May, 2008. John was looking forward for the debut of the movie, as that movie was important in his grand plans. On New Year's Eve John took his family to long vacation. He even asked Valentina to bring her 2 children and her husband to the trip. John always wanted to go to Maldives in his previous life and live in a resort. So he planned accordingly and stayed over for 2 weeks there. They enjoyed the place immensely and had ample rest. Dad, this year will be the beginning of a new era. An era that Earth has never seen before. You should ready yourself mentally to face it. John said to his father suddenly while they were sitting beside the pool and gazing at the sunset. Jameson stared at him for few seconds. He knew by now that his son was special, and since he has mentioned it meant that there is some truth to what was mentioning. What do you want me to do? Jameson asked. It's better to find a new home and a new headquarter for Daily Bugle in New York. And make it as far as possible from Stark Tower. John said. Stark Tower. Is Tony also somebody special with superpowers? I knew it. This arms dealer was definitely selling arms secretly outside, Jameson said agitatedly. John was surprised by his words, but being the head of a huge news agency, it was possible he got some news of arms being sold to terrorists outside. Special. Well, you can say that, but you guessed it wrong. Anyways, just do what I say and don't worry about anything. And please pay attention to weird news from now and don't overlook anything. You might be surprised, John said. All right, kid. I hope you can stay safe. I have no idea what kind of era you are talking about, but I hope we can pave over it safely. Jameson said with some concern. John just smiled and didn't say anything. Valentina's kids were very young. A boy of 8-year-old and a girl of 5 years. Her husband Jorge was an amiable Hispanic man who worked as a Mexican restaurant owner at New York. The 2 kids were named Valeria and Matias. John was thinking to give their family some sort of protection in the future. Her connection with him had already made them sitting on a boat with high waves. When the time is right, I will just take them to the world of Naruto for safety. That would be much better. John thought to himself. Soon they came back after spending a good time and all went back to their lives as usual. Valentina and Jorge thanked John immensely for providing them with such a trip, as it was like a dream for them. The 20th of April, 2008. There was suddenly news and some videos being shared on the internet that there was a monster spotted in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, wreaking havoc. Jameson had specially asked his employers to pay attention to weird news. As soon as he got the news, he went home and told John about it. So it has started. Dad, stay away from Harlem from now and always ready a team near Harlem to shoot any unusual scene in the next 2 months. You will get a surprise, John said, a smirk. Jameson sometimes wondered if the power of John was seeing the future. His son sometimes talked like a prophet and it felt really weird to him. Dad, don't worry. Pay attention to the news of Culver University, but no need to act on it. Just act normal and don't raise any suspicions now. Only Harlem is what that matters, John said with confidence. Jameson didn't say anything to it and few more days went by as usual. But suddenly a startling news started revolving in the internet and now even proper videos came out. Jameson was shocked when he saw the video from Culver University. It was a green-colored humanoid larger than twice the size of a human being ravaging military vehicles and went on a rampage. This video really scared Jameson. At the beginning he thought it might be a monster little more powerful than human being, but after what he saw he hardly believed his eyes. This was almost like an invincible monster and maybe only a nuclear explosion can kill it. John asked him to act as normal, so this time he didn't run to home. But as soon his work ended he took hot shot and went home. For the first time he felt having hot shot gave him a sense of security. He was scared because according to the hints of John there might be a situation with that monster in Harlem. After returning home he immediately called John and informed him. So the trajectory is same as I hoped for. Don't worry, Dad, he isn't a bad guy. He is just a child who is little confused. It's fine, John assured Jameson after watching his dad being a little scared for the first time. Then why did you tell me to watch over Harlem? Don't you mean that this guy will wreak havoc there? Jameson asked with confusion. Dad, a hero will always need a villain to prove himself. Don't you understand that? Haven't you seen the script of the movie that is going to come out in a few weeks? Harlem will be his rise. Well, that's what is supposed to happen. Dad, whatever you shoot in Harlem, don't spread it. Keep it absolutely safe and secure. This will be useful during negotiation if required, John said. Negotiation? With whom? With this green monster. Jameson was more confused now. No, Dad. It can be used with certain people if required. Jameson didn't ask any more questions as he felt stressed by listening to his son's prophetic blabbering. He just informed the team about his requirements and asked them to only record various situations in Harlem and not have any contact. Since it was the work of John, Jameson sent most of his employees for this job. The 2nd of May, 2008. It was a normal night in Harlem, but suddenly there was havoc in the streets. Suddenly a huge humanoid monster of green with a contrast of black could be seen in the streets. Its size was almost the same as the monster that appeared in Culver University, but this one had spinal bones outgrowing from his back and bones from the elbow joints. Jameson, when he got the videos from his employees about this new monster, he immediately called John about it and gave the information about this new monster. So finally it's time for action. I have worked hard and made all necessary preparations for this day. Let the great era begin, John said excitedly. He immediately changed himself to a character from Naruto world. This character had a long white cloak with fire designs at the end and written Yondaime Hokage in Japanese. Yes, it was the famous yellow flash of Konoha, Minato no Mikaze, one of the favorite character from Naruto for John. As soon as he changed, he disappeared from his place and appeared in Harlem. Few days ago he left a flying god thunder mark at a building at the center of Harlem. John leapt over buildings to avoid cameras and approached the place where Abomination was in rampage. He saw a half-damaged US military Humvee driving backwards and Abomination approaching it fast. It won't be fun if I use Minato to fight this. Let me change myself. After saying this, his character changed. As Abomination was almost approaching the Humvee, Abomination felt a sharp pain on his back. It felt like 4 sharp and big needles had entered from his back in the body. Even though there was only rage in his mind, he still could feel pain. He pulled out one of the needles to ease his pain. After pulling it out, he saw swords shaped like a needle with a red handle and a small yellow end. He was instantly angry as he felt insulted by getting hurt by such a flimsy item and broke it instantly. Then he turned back to see who was courageous enough to hurt him. Abomination turned his head and saw a black guy with long blonde hair tied behind. He wore weird black shades in his eyes and a headscarf in his head with a metallic front which had a weird sign drawn on it. His dress was very weird, with a combination of white shirt with only one sleeve and black pants with a huge red-colored belt around his waist. There was a huge object which was bandaged in white and looked like a sword, but this object had an obvious thickness. The people in Humvee sighed in relief as they got some time to sneak away from this monster, but the camera in the Humvee continued to play. On the helicopter, General Ross, Bruce Banner and Betty watched this and were shocked. How could this be possible? Even missiles couldn't penetrate the skin of this monster. How could simple swords enter his back, and that too by quite a few inches? Who is this guy? What is this new weapon? New technology from Stark Industries, General Ross said. Bruce and Betty had the same thought and they too were dumbfounded. They continued to see what would happen next, but they were dumbfounded by what the weird man said next. Yo, the monster destroyed one of my sword. This hatred cannot be resolved by simple words, yo, the man said. Hey, that didn't rhyme at all. I need to work on this rap. Abomination was very much irritated by this man's words and approached fast towards this man. He raised his hand and threw a punch at him. Betty on the helicopter gave a cry and closed her eyes as she could already imagine the gruesome death of the man. Bruce too shuddered. But what they saw next made everybody's eyes present in the helicopter pop out. They saw that the man stopped the punch of the man with his fist. He had a weird blue-like glow around his body. Yes, this weird man was Killer Bee, the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki. John chose this character because he could use more grand moves and defeat Abomination. Abomination was shocked to see that he was stopped by a normal human being, and as he was shocked, Bee used his other hand to punch him hard on his face. This shot alone threw Abomination few meters away. He slid on the ground for few inches and then stopped. Know my name, know my fame, don't be lame. Eight Tails, that's me, the rappin', Killer Bee. Tail beast reside inside my hide. Markin' beats and rhymes and I'm markin' live. It's what a Jinchuriki needs to survive. Battle after battle up here in the beehive. Oh yeah. Bee started singing and even dancing to this weird but catchy rap extract. Now all the people who were looking at him were even more dumbfounded. What's up with this man? Why is he so weird? He punched this monster so hard, but instead of continuing assault he is singing and dancing. These were the thoughts of all the people present. Abomination got up, shaking his head after a second. He felt his dignity was insulted after watching his opponent singing during the battle. "I am going to send you to hell," it shouted. After standing on his feet, he started running towards Killer Bee again, and this time he was going to take this fight seriously. Last time, he considered it was like an ant, so he didn't even use his full strength, but he wouldn't commit the same mistake again. As soon as he was near the Killer Bee to throw a punch, Bee suddenly vanished from the spot and he instantly felt a strong pain in his back. It felt as if 1,000 spikes has entered through his skin and wreaked havoc. He turned around instantly only to see Killer Bee standing with a huge sword-shaped object. Only this time half of the bandages of it was removed and he could see a weird blue-colored round-shaped sword with spikes all over its body. "Ow, seems like same harder likes the energy in your body. It seems I would have to feed it from you." This sword was Same Harder, a living sword that fed on energy and chakra. Same Harder changed ownership when he had a fight with Kaizame Hoshigeki, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. What the hell is going on? Can anyone tell me? Who is this man? General Ross roared. After few seconds, a soldier who was responsible for monitoring said, "Sir, we don't have any information about this man." "How come the US military doesn't have any information about this man? Find it out fast. Search everything and everywhere." He was shocked, but he was more excited because this guy could be the key to controlled super soldier serum that he had been researching all these years. He wanted all the information about him. Bee held Same Harder with 2 hands and the blue glow in his body changed to red glow. John couldn't let this fight last long, as many people have been paying attention to this fight. John needed a platform to showcase a new world to the high-level people and he got it. Now it was time to finish it off. He knew that the government might come after him after this, but he wasn't afraid. "The party time is over now," Bee said finally with a hint of sincerity. After covering his whole body and Same Harder with red glow, he vanished from the spot. And when he appeared, he was already face to face with Abomination. Abomination tried to stop the sword which was approaching in fast speed by crossing his arms in defense position, only to feel a sharp pain in his hands and the same feeling of small needles entering his body and dragging over it. Abomination also realized that he felt a little weak after taking this move from Bee. Before the realization could even be processed by Abomination, Bee vanished only to appear behind him and using the same move on his legs. This brought Abomination down to his knees. Abomination felt humiliated and wanted to give a backhand jab to Bee, but only to catch air. Bee appeared again in front of him and this time used Same Harder and took a swipe at his chest. The only difference this time was that he kept the sword for few seconds on his chest instead of shredding his skin with the sharp needles on the body. This allowed Same Harder to absorb lots of energy from the body of Abomination. Of course, he wasn't going to suck Abomination as he needed to be kept alive. John had watched Shanghai in his previous life and he knew Marvel had some plans for him. He didn't want to end this story now. Bee then suddenly used the famous lariat shot on the neck of Abomination to make him unconscious. After he took the shot, he suddenly heard a loud voice from behind. "Stop! You can't kill him. He is an US military property." General Ross shouted from behind. "Who are you? You possess such immense power. You might be a danger to the general public of US, so I would need you to come with me," he continued. Ross approached him with caution with gun pointed towards Bee. There were also some soldiers and policemen pointing their guns at him. Even though they were pointing their guns, nobody felt that the guns could be helpful fighting this weird man. They watched of how he defeated this monster. His vanishing move is enough to kill all of them. Even though Ross said these words, he didn't feel safe enough, but he still took the risk. This was his chance to fulfill his dream of super soldier project. He didn't know how much flack he was going to receive from higher authorities for the mess he had caused. Hey, General Ross, after killing so many people with your stupid experiment, you still have such courage to ask me about it. One Hulk wasn't enough for you to satiate your thirst. As for me, didn't I say my name? My name is Killer Bee, Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails. Now lower your guns, otherwise I won't mind giving you a lesson for you to remember for the rest of your life, Bee said mockingly. How dare you? Ross knew that he was weak, but his momentary arrogance blinded him. Boys, shoot him, Ross commanded. After listening to the command, the soldiers started shooting immediately. Even though they knew it was futile, they still took the shot. They just prayed that this weird man wouldn't kill them. As soon as they shot, Bee vanished from the spot, only to appear behind a soldier and vanishing again. This small moment was enough for Bee to make the soldier unconscious with a controlled hit. This move repeated again in the back of other soldier near him, and he too fell unconscious. This cycle repeated again with all the soldiers. By the time the last soldier realized what was happening, he was already late and fell unconscious. After this trick, he appeared in front of General Ross. Bee took the posture of punching him in the face. Ross was horrified, as he felt he would die if he received a full-powered punch from him. Only to realize that the hand to stop in front of his nose. He even felt a gust of wind passing by due to the close proximity. Ross took several steps behind in fast manner and held his gun tightly pointing at Bee. He didn't have the courage to take the shot, as he knew that his action might lead to his death. Betty almost gave a scream by looking at this. Bruce's face too was solemn, as he wasn't sure if he could defeat him when transformed to Hulk. Relax, General, I won't kill you. I ain't a bad guy, but please don't use your official power in front of me. Those don't affect me at all. General, a piece of advice: give up your ambitions. It will only lead to your demise. Okay, now bye. Bee vanished after saying that. Before vanishing, Bee eyed Bruce and winked at him. Banner immediately understood that this was his chance to escape, and among all the rubble and unconscious soldiers he sneaked away without being noticed by anyone. Ross was too scared to pay attention to anyone. Killer Bee appeared again in a remote alley where there was nobody, and he climbed upon the wall to the top of the building beside and ran over the buildings to appear very far away. He checked if there were any cameras with the help of Fix-It and transformed back to John. He walked out of the alley with a smile in his face. He had achieved what he wanted to, and he was happy about it. He called a taxi and asked him to take to Manhattan, to his home. The traffic was really heavy. It was probably due to the fact that there was a havoc in Harlem and police, firefighters and ambulances were rushing in. As he was approaching his home, he got a message from Bumblebee saying that 2 men had entered his room. Bee asked for permission to kill them. Bee, you can't always think of killing. It's fine. Let me reach home. I am strong enough now to handle 2 people. I probably know who came to my home. Calm down, John said hurriedly. After reaching home, he opened his door and realized there was no Val. He was little scared for her, but then he remembered he gave protection to her in the form of transformed mobile, which he changed sneakily. Since there was no message about any attack, he understood that she must be away. These 2 people might have led her away from home. And since even his father hadn't arrived, he understood it was the deliberate action of them. He already knew who these 2 people were. After entering his room, he noticed that there was a person with an eye patch on his right eye sitting in a chair, and in the corner was another person standing beside him, and both being in darkness as the lights were off. As he went to switch on the lights, the person sitting in the chair said in a raspy voice, "Mr. John Jameson, founder of Disney and the person behind the huge technological giants in the world. It's nice to meet you finally. Nicholas J. Fury, Director of Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement and Logistics Division, and Phil Coulson, an agent of Level 7 clearance. It's nice to meet you both too. Coulson, you can sit down in the chair beside," John said while switching on the lights without even looking at them. Now it was the time for Fury and Coulson to be astonished. They immediately touched their guns beside them, as they weren't sure how John knew about them and even their identity and organization. 2 hours ago. SHIELD headquarters in New York. Fury came to New York on the information he received that was a illegal experimentation being done at Harlem, and it was related to Hulk. Fury had already planned to absorb Hulk into SHIELD later, as he was too dangerous to be left in the hands of US military. He followed the reports closely. And when Abomination broke out, he already had video feedback from the scene. But what happened later changed his world view. He saw a weird black man in a weird dress fighting against the monster while singing and dancing. It almost felt like a child's play to him. Who the hell is he? Find out right now, Fury ordered. He wasn't sure where this guy had popped up from, but he needed to know about him. Sir, the facial recognition software can't find any relevant information about him in any database. This person supposedly never existed before now, the agent who was responsible for searching information said with a surprised tone. This is impossible. Check again, Fury said. Sir, I have checked thrice. There is no information about him, the agent replied. Coulson, who was silent for some time now, finally said with a weird expression, I think I know this guy. It's the same as he said. His name is Killer Bee, the Jinchuriki of 8 Tails. Coulson, you know him. How come you have never mentioned him before? Are there any secrets you are hiding? Fury asked with a hint of surprise. Coulson had been his trusted subordinate for a long time now, and he never kept any secret from him. So how come he never heard about this guy from Coulson? Sir, you misunderstood. I said I know this guy and his character, but I personally don't know him. Because technically he is not supposed to exist. He is a character out of anime made by John Jameson, Coulson said with a more weird expression. Even though Fury didn't pay attention to normal things, he paid attention to the life of John, as he was a person of interest due to his massive influence. So he knew what anime was. What he couldn't believe was the fact that an animated character had come to life. He couldn't believe it, so he asked why Coulson thought this guy was Killer Bee from the anime. Sir, this move of his sword was possible because he attached a lightning chakra to swords. With that, it has high speed and penetration power. Chakra can be said as a type of power which is hereditary and pass from generations to generations. That sword he uses is a living sword. Yes, you heard it right, it's a living sword. It absorbs chakra from others to make itself big and powerful. Well, here he is absorbing the energy of this monster. That is the reason the monster was so weak by the end, and the red glow in his body is because of a demon named 8 Tails sealed in his body. He can freely control the power of the demon and fight. His power can be evaluated as a walking nuclear bomb. In full force he can destroy cities. Well, at least that's what the story in anime said. Coulson spoke out in one breath. Coulson was the person who had kept tabs on John initially, and that led him to watch his works on animation and movies. Later, even though he withdrew from spying on John, he continued watching his works. His works really fascinated him, and the story of Naruto really touched him as it spoke of organizations responsible for world peace. Coulson understood that at the end the price of freedom and peace is always high, and to achieve a balance between them is the toughest of all. Fury listened to him and started thinking, and soon realized the main person behind this is still John. Only John can speak clearly on this. Immediately he ordered his agents to contact John, but his agents replied that John wasn't at home. If before Fury had some doubts about John's connection to this guy, now he was definitely sure that there was a connection, because his agents said that they never saw him leaving the house. Even though they stopped close monitoring of John, S.H.I.E.L.D. always had an eye on him from far. After thinking for a long time, he decided to go to his house and wait for him. He immediately gave orders to stop the military to go after John, as it was outside their jurisdiction. S.H.I.E.L.D. was responsible for any extraordinary events on Earth and had an US member in World Council. So he had enough pull on this matter. Nick also took Coulson, as he could give insights on this regard. Present time. Home of Jameson. John saw that his plan worked. He wanted this exposure from the very beginning. John knew that doing all this would expose him to S.H.I.E.L.D. and later to the people of the world when they get to know that his works are coming to life. But this is the only way he could accumulate more fan values. Relax, you two. Knowing such information is very easy for me, and I advise you to NTW to make any rash movements, as the guy in the windowsill isn't very good-tempered. John said with a smile. Fury and Coulson suddenly realized there was an additional guy sitting with one leg hanging down and one leg on top of windowsill. He had long hair and covering his one eye. He looked really handsome with the moon shining on top of his head. After years of being in spy service, it was the first time they didn't even notice another person arriving beside them. Sir, this is Sasuke Uchiha. He is more powerful and dangerous. Sir, I really advise you not to take any rash decision, Coulson said solemnly while keeping his hands from the gun away. After thinking for a couple of seconds, he came back to normal, as he understood that John didn't have any malice towards them. If he had, he could have killed them long ago. Sasuke being on top of windowsill sitting without even them realizing was proof enough that John had powerful allies, and him not taking a shot towards them stated that he didn't want to come in conflict with them. Truth to be said, I expected Natasha or Clint to come and spy on me for a few days and try to find out information from me. I think the military didn't give you a good time, so you had to come by yourself. I was even ready to play with you all, but I guess I underestimated myself. Thanks for showing me the sincerity. And please, can you abbreviate your organization's name as S.H.I.E.L.D.? It's really tongue-twisting to say such a long name, John said. Fury and Coulson were really surprised about the depth of information John had about them. That abbreviation sounds appropriate, Coulson murmured under his breath. Fury really felt that all his secrets were bared out. John could see the worry on Fury's eyes. A guy who never trusted anyone was in a very weird position. Relax, Fury, I don't know everything about you. I am still in the process of knowing S.H.I.E.L.D. and its secrets, but you don't have to worry. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't interest me a bit. You can continue with your work and I with mine. Of course there can be talks of cooperation because we both know of the dangers that the Earth is facing. That's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching. Hello guys, how are all of you beautiful people? Hope all of you are doing fine. And yes, this is the next part of Multiverse of Marvel. When a cinephile and an otaku /weeb travels through dimensions and gets a system which can only be described as overpowered but comes with restrictions. At first he was overjoyed with the system but soon realizes that he is in a very dangerous world where his life was at risk all the time. So without any delay, let's start the video. Who are you? What are you? What is your purpose? How come you know so much about us? Fury asked in a more calm way this time. Haven't you done your homework on me? Don't worry, I am not an alien. The reason why I know about you is for another reason. But that's not what you really want to know, do you? John said as he sat beside them. It seems like Coulson has watched Naruto. So it will be easier for me to explain. Whatever story you have watched at Naruto is a real story, well, except for some of the deaths. Due to certain reasons their universe has started merging with our universe and their world has entered the planet Earth. This process almost started a year ago and now their world has completely merged with planet Earth. Of course, by merging I don't mean that they live on Earth. The reason why you haven't noticed the existence of them is because they have hidden themselves in a smaller plane which is aligned with Earth. All the people living in the villages and countries are now in that plane. Now they have showed their faces because they needed information about this world and I was the mediator for them, John said in one breath. So you are saying their whole world has collided with our world? Aren't they aliens? Is there any reason behind it? What are their purpose? Did they initiate this? And how are you connected in all this? Fury asked curiously now. Fury, there are infinite universes out there. You must have heard the theory of parallel universe. If you haven't, you should give it a read. Their world is just another parallel universe and due to unknown reasons their world has merged with us. Don't look at me like that. I really don't know the reason of this collision. But I can tell you this, their universe isn't the only universe to merge with us. Some more universes will soon start this process, John said. Oh, you moth ******. Fury blurted out after listening to this. Even though Fury didn't believe what he said, but the facts in front of him showed that whatever John is saying might be true. Coulson, after listening to the conversation, finally remembered something and asked. Mr. John, if what you said is true, then there must be the 5 Kges. If you really want us to believe this, can you let director meet the 5 Kges? It seems like you really have watched the whole series. Yes, there are 5 Kges. The fight today with the monster was their decision to intervene in order to attract your attention and have meeting with you and the World Council behind to negotiate their merge with Earth. Even if they live in their own plane, they need Earth's help for trade purposes. They are even ready to trade some of their science and technology with you all. Fury, I advise you to go and watch the whole series before meeting the 5 heads of their villages to understand their character better. And Fury, tell your World Council not to conspire against the world of Naruto. The ending will not be good for them. Politics is nothing in front of real power. Though it's naive to think on my part that there will be no conspiracies from your politics, but let me remind you and your World Council that they are basically assassins, so for them to turn over a government is very easy. Bullets, missiles and even your nuclear weapons are useless to them. Shield and governments of countries won't even know what hit them if they decided to do so. John said. Okay. Fine. I will think on it and try to arrange a meeting with these so-called heads. But they need to meet me first before having an audience with the World Council. Don't worry, I will warn the World Council. Fury thought for a moment and gave a decision. Sure, then I thank you on behalf of them. Sasuke, you have heard what he said, you can go and inform them. Arrange them in a location and their shield will pick them up. John said to Sajuk while blatantly giving orders on behalf of shield. Fury raised his eyebrows when he heard this but didn't reject it. Sajuk will soon contact you. You can take his number from me, John continued and said to Fury. After listening to this, Sajuk vanished from his spot without even speaking a sentence during the whole meeting. Fury had been eyeing Sajuk for the whole time now, as he himself felt that the person was dangerous. It was as if his instinct almost screaming to him, saying not to make any funny movement in his presence. After he disappeared, Fury relaxed his nerves. The past few moments were one of the most stressful in his life. It reminded him of the incident with Carol. Okay, now tell me, what is the deal with you? How come you know about them? And you said there might be situations like that. What do you mean by that? Fury asked John now. John smiled and replied. My situation is a bit special. You can think of me bit of like a middleman. When I sleep I can dream of different worlds and their stories. It's in this way I know about you two and your identities and Naruto's story. It started few years ago, and from this knowledge I was able to build such a huge empire in such a short time. But soon I realized that this was not all to these dreams, which led to the current situation. Last year the 5 Kages approached me as they knew that I already know their story from animation. Even if their planes are separated by dimension barrier, they can come and go into Earth as they please. But anyone who doesn't have permission can't enter their dimension. You should actually thank me for this. I made a complicated process simple. John said a whole bunch of lies with a straight face. He didn't feel any wrong saying this, as this story was mixed with truth. Fury became silent after hearing this. Whatever John said can be inferred as real, as he had some weird ideas which propagated his rise in such a short time. His deeds can only be described as legendary. Now Fury felt thankful that John existed, otherwise he would have been in the dark all this time and it might have spiraled into an uncontrollable manner. Now at least he has some information of the other party. From Coulson's hints he could infer that these so-called 5 Kages shouldn't be bad, and he could take a week to watch the whole series and get to know their story. Fine. I believe you for the time being. Would you like to join S.H.I.E.L.D.? Of course not as an agent, but in another department, Fury asked John finally. He would like to get the first-hand information from him about the coming of new worlds. He didn't want to be passive like this and take the initiative to contact them. Sure, I could join S.H.I.E.L.D. as consultant. Keep the military away from me. But don't put a security detail on me, as it will hamper the other party from approaching me. I would like to mention that I will still continue creating series and movies, as that will help the other party approach me. Movies can be said as a gesture of goodwill towards them. Fury, some of the people that might come in the future can be really powerful, so you might not even find them, so it's better to do this ritual. Oh yes. Have you blocked the news of B and others? The world isn't ready yet to know the news of B and that monster. John said, as he didn't want to expose his secret. Fury, after thinking quite a bit and seeing the power of Killer B, agreed to this. Yes, S.H.I.E.L.D. is controlling the situation. I have handled Ross, as he created quite a scene in Harlem. The White House isn't happy about him and consulted us to handle your situation. Coulson will be the liaison on this matter, and you can contact me directly when you get new information about new worlds. Fury said, as he already had a headache thinking of the explanation he would have to give to the World Security Council. Yeah, about that, in a few months or weeks there might be a new guy soon. Mother ****. T Fury and Coulson almost shouted out loudly after hearing John. Don't tell me it's the Transformers. Coulson thought of John's works and speculated that only the world of Transformers might collide with their world. He was both excited and worried thinking about this. No Coulson, it's not Transformers. It's about the new movie I am making which will release in a few weeks' time. John said. Tell me about this guy, Fury asked John. If you and Tony ever had a child in the future, then this new guy would be that child. Being a great inventor and a detective, he is someone who walks in shadows, and like you, Fury, he doesn't trust anybody. You should know how to deal with such people. So don't try to find him. Even though he hasn't arrived yet, he will come soon, John said with a smirk. If one problem wasn't enough for S.H.I.E.L.D., now they have another guy who is like him but more dangerous. Fury now really had a huge headache. Give me more information about him, Fury said. It's fine, he hasn't arrived yet. His story is a bit sad, so you can watch the movie. He won't be coming before the release of movie anyways, so you can rest assured. Tomorrow there will a trailer too for the movie. You can check it out. Fury didn't insist on this as he has enough headache now. Receiving the location of the 5 cages, he was surprised. He thought they would be in a single position, but their locations were separated. This made him trust John a little bit more as he never went to these locations ever before. After discussing the necessary process of approaching them, he and Coulson left as he had too much work to do. Jameson returned home few minutes after their departure, and he already knew that Killer Bee had appeared in Harlem. He excitedly asked John about the situation and was dumbfounded when he learned that the whole world of Naruto has merged with Earth. John lied to him too as he didn't want to tell his secrets to anyone. Surprisingly, there were no videos or any new information in other papers about the wreckage of Harlem. It seemed like it never happened. S.H.I.E.L.D. really has too much power in this world. Sigh. As long as Hydra doesn't affect me, I don't really care of what they do. John thought. The same day, a new trailer for a movie came out from the official channel of Disney on YouTube. The trailer started showing a small boy falling in an unused well and someone speaking in the background saying, "Tell us, Mr. Wayne, what do you fear?" The video then showed a young man in a dirty room with another older man in suit. The young man asked, "How do you know my name?" "Well, the world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear," the other man replied after coming out of the shadows. The trailer played while showing glimpses of many interesting and fascinating scenes and ended with a man dressed in black with pointed ears on his head, and at the end it showed the name of the movie. Yes, the movie John chose to create was Batman Begins, the famous movie of Christopher Nolan. John was a great fan of DC in his previous life, and he wanted to make things right in this world for the DC universe. While shooting of the film, he directed Nolan to make Batman more flexible and show more fighting scenes, because he would incorporate this version of Batman in the DCU. John had enough confidence that this movie would inject sufficient amount in his depleted number of fan values. In addition, the sequel would inject a higher number in future. The internet went mad at that moment because no movie ever showed a superhero apart from Captain America. And Captain Rogers' movie was more of a propaganda than a movie for all. This was a new refreshing theme for movie lovers, and it specially came from Disney, which has a huge reputation of making great movies. In the next few days there was a buzz in the entertainment sector of the media. Many speculated that this movie was a silent arrow shot to Tony Stark, as in the trailer the hero clearly lost his parents who were rich and inherited their wealth but later turned out to be superhero. Some people even debated on the fact that John and Tony had some secret rivalry, and people were divided in the comments section of the trailer. Fury also paid attention to it and was actually relieved when he watched the trailer. He felt at least there is no huge danger. Even though he wasn't sure if this Batman had any powers, but he felt that Batman wouldn't be outrageous like the world of Naruto. Fury had a meeting with the World Council before and told the exact situation he learned from John and said about the meeting in a week. The World Council happily obliged as they could get intel from this so-called new world and exchange ideas. They had their own ideas about this new world and they saw it as a waypoint to exploit a new world. They said they could definitely strike a deal of trade as it would be beneficial for S.H.I.E.L.D. too. Fury told all the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to watch Naruto series so that every agent could understand the other party's powers better. By that time almost all the agents knew about the new situation. Of course all the agents had to keep this information secret. Obviously the Hydra agents felt that the vision of Obito was much better and idealistic than these 5 Kijis, as they felt in real world the people would forget their hard-won war and humanity will enter the same cycle of hatred. Only absolute control could maintain absolute peace. Pierce was already making plans on how to use this in his favor and had to make necessary plans. Soon a week passed by as the scheduled meeting was set in morning. After a long time all the 5 members of the World Council met with each other. Every Kij was brought to the main headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Washington, D.C. via the Quinjet. All the Kijis wore the same dress as they did during the last 5 Kij Summit meeting, with a huge squared-shaped hat and a cloak. At around 11 a.m. all the Kijis arrived. All the agents that were in the Triskelion came to the windows and crowded near the doors when all the Kijis arrived. Every Kij was followed by a bodyguard. The agents were excited to see such legendary characters. They all have watched the Naruto series and they knew all about all the 5 Kijis. Nick Fury personally came to meet them near the door. "It's an honor to meet you all. I am Nick Fury. Welcome to the Triskelion. I hope your journeys were a pleasant one. It's a pleasure to meet you too, Nick Fury. Even though you have already known us, but it will be rude not to introduce myself. I am Naruto Uzumaki, the 7th Hokage and the Jinchuriki of the 9 Tails. Man, your mode of transport is so cool. I would really like one myself. This Kurama is such a useless thing. He has such awesome powers but he can't fly," Naruto said with a hint of regret. Nick Fury almost fell down when he listened to his complaint. "I guess only he can mock the almost invincible 9 Tails and get away with it," Fury said in his heart. He wiped away the invisible sweat from his head. "Sure, we would love to provide some Quinjets for you all so that you can travel faster," Fury said at the end. The other Kijis introduced themselves. Fury felt he was living in pins and needles. Each character present here was powerful enough to destroy the Triskelion with a single swipe, but felt lucky that they were on the good side. Even if they would never be under the thumb of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was good enough if they could become allies. Soon Nick brought them to a big closed room with no surveillance. He didn't want to be fancy and sneak away anything, as this meeting was very important for future and he wanted to convey a goodwill. They all sat down. The meeting with the World Council was scheduled after the meeting with Fury as he wanted to personally talk with them. The World Council approved of this as they felt even if they know their story, they weren't sure if the story was true. It would be better if Fury can judge their character after meeting them personally. "We would like to open trade with you and establish a proper trade route so that we could sustain ourselves. In exchange we can allow some of your agents to visit our villages and even learn our ways of fighting. Even though you don't have chakra in your body, I am sure our way of fighting will be suitable for you all. Gaara said immediately after sitting in his chair. He really is a person with no nonsense as opposed to Naruto who likes to blabber a lot. They really are the same as in the series. I guess John can be trusted in this regard, but why do I feel like he is hiding something? Or is it just my overthinking? Fury thought to himself. Sure Kazekage, we will happily cooperate. It's just that we don't have a big department for logistics. We might take more time, but rest assured we will work around the clock for it. We will also like if you could share some medical personals from your villages. That can be done, I guess. Chojuro said timidly. Speak up, Mitsukage. You are a great shinobi and last generations of 7 swordsmen. Have some confidence. And there better not be any shady things behind the scenes. We will know immediately if that happens. Kurotsuchi said. We will also accept limited number of mercenary operations from S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course we will take money in return as we ninjas also need money. Of course only Chunin graduates will be allowed to take the missions. Oh yes. John might have said it, but I will add again. Don't try to trick us. Naruto might be gullible, but we are not. We don't mind reminding the people out there why we are ninjas. She added. Fury was delighted when he heard that, because having Chunin personals would mean having already top-rank forces for S.H.I.E.L.D. equivalent to Captain America with weird powers. Sure, we would love this cooperation even more. And I will make sure there are no conspiracies against you all. But do keep in mind that the missions would be evaluated first by the management in respective villages, and if we think that the mission has a problem that doesn't go by our ninja way, we will reject. Darue added. Of course I understand that. I will also help you all to provide identities so that you can come to our world. Fury said hurriedly. Fury knew that they lived in different plane than the Earth's, and in fact in these few days he tried searching for any weird energy all over the Earth, but the science department of S.H.I.E.L.D. said there is no such thing in whole Earth and everything was normal. The further negotiations can be done under the presence of the World Council and we could sign relevant papers for it. Fury said at the end. Everybody agreed and went outside to bring all the 5 members of the World Council in the room. After couple of minutes they came as Fury assured them that the story John depicted is probably true, as their characters were same like the story. It's my honor to meet the famous 5 Kages. I am Gideon Malik. How are your children, Mr. Naruto? Are they well? A member of the World Council said as he approached Naruto. Don't speak about them. Boruto is still a headache. Only Imawari is the sensible one. But it's my own fault. After coming to this world I am trying to spend more time with the family. Naruto said with a small smile in his face. Ha ha ha. I have a daughter myself. I can totally understand your thoughts, Gideon said with a laugh. Shikamaru, who came with Naruto, approached and said hello all. I am Shikamaru Nara of Konohagakure. I am the advisor for the Kages and I will be responsible for the negotiations in this meeting. I hope you all can accept it. Sure. Fury will be our representative. Let the negotiations begin. We will like to include exchange of technology, share of medical knowledge, mercenary operations on behalf of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the negotiations. Yen, one of the members of the World Council said. Sure, let's start with the share of medical knowledge. Shikamaru started providing proposals. Sometimes Fury added his own perspective and input. After an hour of negotiations a deal was reached between the 5 Kages and World Council. The negotiations were very fast because the World Council didn't want to provoke an enemy like them, and they got new knowledge and personals with almost paying the price equivalent to nothing. The 4th of June, 2008. Today again there was a red carpet premiere in LA and John came for it with his family. The premiere for Batman Begins was a grand one, partly because the American audience loved superheroes and the story seemed like it was based on Tony Stark's life, and this movie was silent jab to Tony's legacy. After coming to the premiere, John was surrounded by reporters again. "Mr. John, what are your expectations from the movie?" one reporter asked. "I have very high expectations from it, and we have already decided that there will be a sequel to the movie soon," John said. This was a new information for them and they immediately asked John about it but didn't reveal any more information about it. "Mr. John, some say that this movie is based on the life of Tony Stark and you taking a name to him. Is that true?" another reporter asked. "Of course not. I know the media is trying to portray in such a way, but let me assure the story has nothing to do with the life of Tony. This is just a made-up conspiracy theory," John said with high confidence, even though the reporter didn't feel he was speaking the truth. "Excuse me. My friend is here. I need to say hello to him," John said after rejecting further questions. "Hey Coulson, what's up?" Fury didn't come to the premiere. "I heard Sajuk saying that the negotiations went good." "Congratulations," John said as he approached Coulson. Coulson came as he was the liaison of John and gather information from the movie about this new hero who is going to come to Earth soon. "Thanks, Mr. John. I would like to know, when will Mr. Bruce come to Earth?" he asked. "You can call me John. You don't have to be formal with me. Treat me like a friend. He will arrive soon. Maybe within a month. I am not sure yet," John replied. "Thanks, John," Coulson replied. After few minutes of talking, John noticed that an acquaintance also arrived. John didn't expect his presence. He could already see that the reporters were flocking towards him. "I can wholeheartedly say me and Mr. John there don't have any rivalry. Don't try to make weird stories from your conspiracies. Me fighting a person almost half my age is hilarious. If the military people hear about this, they will laugh at me and cancel the contracts on ground of this. Don't you think so, Mr. Jameson?" Tony said as he noticed John approaching him. "Of course, Mr. Stark. I have already told them the same thing, but they just refuse to believe me," John said with a smile. "I am surprised by your presence here, Mr. Stark. Thank you for coming and sorry for not giving you an invitation. I didn't think you will be interested. Congratulations for winning this year's Apogee Award," John said. "Thank you. Though the ceremony in a few weeks. You should come with me for the ceremony. Your ideas surprised even me, kid. I am sure we can come up with something good. You can be my assistant in this," Stark said. He still had the arrogance which continued his entire life. John didn't mind his arrogance as he has the capital to back it. "Sure, Mr. Stark. We will have lots of things to discuss in the future. Now let's go and watch the movie. I am sure you will like it," John said. The movie started with a boy playing hide and seek with a girl, and while hiding from her he accidentally fell into a well and suddenly the bats living in the well attacking him. The shot changed and then showed a young man with handsome face in a foreign prison opening his eyes. He had a fight soon with the inmates and then was caught while in the middle of the fight and thrown to a locked cell by the guards. Suddenly a man came out of the shadows and said, "Are you so desperate to fight criminals that you lock yourself in so that you can fight them one at a time?" "Actually there were 7. The young man said. I counted 6, Mr. Wayne the man in suit replied. How do you know my name? The young man said with solemnness, now leaving his careless attitude from before. The world is too small for Bruce Wayne to vanish. The man in suit said, my name is Ducard, but I speak for Ra's al Ghul, leader of League of Shadows. He continued by saying his purpose of his presence and asked him to join a group of warriors fighting for justice. The movie followed by him going to the place where Ducard asked him to go and joining the League of Shadows. The movie followed almost as the original Christopher Nolan's original version. But the fights were more exciting and fast-paced than the original. The movie went on with him refusing to kill criminals and burning down the whole compound of League of Shadows. After he returned, he decided to do something about the rotten city of Gotham. And with the help of his steward Alfred, policeman Gordon and Lucius Fox's fancy gadgets, suits and a modified vehicle, he started a cleaning process in the city of Gotham wearing a bat suit. But soon realized there is a larger conspiracy at play in the city. After much investigation, he found out that there will be a terrorist attack on the city that will destroy the city, and the astonishing thing was that his company's hand was there in this attack. As he investigated more, the person behind the whole operation came out. That person was Ducard, who he rescued when he bombed the compound of League of Shadows. He turned out to be the real Ra's al Ghul. Ra's said in order to clean the city there needed to be cleansing in full scale, and this can only be done if they killed everyone in the city. The audience exclaimed at the plan and lunacy of Ra's. Then Batman fought Ra's to stop him in the final fight in a train. The train crashed and Batman glided away before the crash, with the fate of Ra's being unknown. John wanted Ra's to be alive for later period, as he needed Ra's to be more comic accurate and had grand plans for him. He didn't know how the system evaluates his movies and worlds. As there were different versions of Ra's. There was a different Ra's in the Green Arrow series and a different Ra's in the animated movie. He hoped that there will be no conflicts when he brings the characters to life. The movie ended with a post-credits scene of Gordon asking for help from Batman with a new criminal that has risen in Gotham called Joker. People really loved the movie and gave a big applause. Tony too loved the movie, as the movie's story coincided with his life a lot, but there were differences. The movie was produced by the subsidiary of Disney named as DC. Though people didn't know why there was a subsidiary for Batman's production, they didn't think much about it. In 2 weeks the movie earnings reached a whopping $300 million. Almost reaching the original box office earning in such a short time. Ding. Total No of fan values, 120 million. Fan value required to bring the character Batman, George Clooney's version, to life, 2 million. Fan value required to bring the character Batman, Christopher Nolan's version, to life, 40 million. Fan value required to bring the character Batman, Zack Snyder's version, to life, 60 million. Fan value required to bring the character Batman, J. Oliver's animated version, to life, 80 million. The fan values required to change yourself will be half of the character's fan value. Fan value required for Batmobile, Christopher Nolan's version, 2 million. Fan value required for Batmobile, Zack Snyder's version, 2 million. Suddenly John had a weird thought and asked the system, can I combine 2 versions of Batman together? Ding. Yes. Which versions does the host wants to combine? I want to combine Zack Snyder and Oliver's version. Is that possible? If yes, then how much will be the cost? John asked excitedly. Ding. Calculating. The fan value required is 100 million. It's probably due to less difference between these two versions. Well, anyways, extract the combined version of Zack Snyder and Oliver's version with the two types of Batmobile. The Zack Snyder's version of Batwing and Alfred. Zack Snyder's version, John said. Ding. Characters and items extracted. You can summon them whenever you like. Remaining fan values, 10 million. All fan values gained by the movie gone to ashes. Sigh. The stage for Iron Man has been set. John said excitedly as he was lying down in his bed. Tonight he would have a good sleep. The 2nd of July, 2008. Las Vegas. As liaison to Stark Industries, I have had the unique privilege to serve with a real patriot. He is my friend and he is my great mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present this year's Apogee Award to Mr. Tony Stark. Colonel Rhodes said and waited in the podium for Tony to appear. But Obadiah Stane appeared instead to receive the award and gave a speech. John too attended the ceremony and he wanted to say his farewell to Tony before his change. In addition, he wanted to see who was Colonel Rhodes, as he had changed in subsequent movies and saw that it was Don Cheadle's character. Before, when he fought against Abomination, he noticed it was Mark Ruffalo's character. So I guess the universe corrected itself here, John said in his heart. After the ceremony was over, Rhodes called Tony to find his whereabouts. John already knew where Tony was, so he directly went to the casino after the awards. Slowly. After he came to the table where Tony was, he saw Rhodes having a conversation with Tony. After losing the money in the gambling table, he was ready to go home, only to see John standing and looking at him on the opposite side of the table. Rhodes left after reminding Tony to be on time for the flight to Afghanistan. Hey kid, you didn't come to ruin my luck in the gambling table, did you? Tony said as he approached John. Behind Tony stood Happy. John looked at him for a couple of seconds, as in the original world Happy's actor was the director of Iron Man movie. He looked at Happy but didn't say anything. No, Mr. Stark, I just came here to see you. I was in the award ceremony and I just walked in here only to see you. John lied. Well, don't drink here. If you get caught, the media will tear your good image apart, Stark said with a laugh. I never drink, Mr. Stark. Well, I heard you are going to Afghanistan tomorrow. You should be careful there, as that place isn't safe now. John reminded me once. Don't worry, I will be fine. The US military will protect me, as this weapon is important for them. Tony replied without much care. John just shrugged and didn't say anything. He didn't want to change his trajectory, as this journey is important for him to change himself. After saying goodbyes to each other, John moved away and saw from afar as Tony took a reporter into the car after she interviewed him intensely. John just smiled after he saw that. John returned home by flight the next day. As per the original timeline, Tony arrived late by 3 hours to his private plane to Afghanistan. As the flight attendant closed the doors of the plane, felt a gust of wind pass by her. But she didn't feel anything wrong about it. Somewhere in Afghanistan. They say the best weapon is when you never have to fire. I respectfully disagree. I prefer the weapon you only have to fire once. That's how Dad did it, that's how America does it, and it's worked out pretty well so far. Tony said a long speech and continued, for your consideration, the Jericho. After showing off the missile's capabilities, he went to the military Humvee. Soon he got a call from Obadiah asking about the situation, and Tony replied happily. After Rhodes leaving in a separate way, Tony and the convoy rode towards the military base. Suddenly there was a sound and the forward Humvee exploded. They were being ambushed. There was a fierce battle between the soldiers in the convoy and the people who ambushed. The soldiers were outgunned and outnumbered. Tony, after realizing the dire situation, made a run for his life, but soon a missile flew and got stuck near him. Tony, after seeing the name tag on the missile, tried making a run, but it exploded before he could do so. As soon as the convoy was hit, S.H.I.E.L.D. got the immediate information about the ambush and sent agents to find out what happened. After Fury knew the whole process, he was agitated. He immediately called Coulson to start searching for Tony. Even after 2 weeks he couldn't find Tony. Fury was really stressed now and he immediately called Kazekage. "Hello Kazekage, I would like to apply for a mission. I want a team of your ninjas to be sent to Afghanistan to find Tony Stark. He is an important asset for S.H.I.E.L.D. "Oh. I have got the information. But sadly I can't help you in this. Because there is another person from another world who has his eyes on Tony. We don't want to be in conflict against him. But don't worry, he is a good guy. I am sure he will bring Tony back," Gara replied. "Another guy from another world." Fury stopped for a couple of seconds. "Okay, I understand. Thank you Kazekage," Fury replied and immediately called Coulson. "Coulson, stop all your activities in finding Tony and come back. We need to go to meet our consultant. We have a new visitor," Fury said. Coulson understood the meaning and asked his team to stop all operations and return home. After returning the next day, Coulson and Fury went to the new home of Jameson. Jameson bought a new home in Long Island with a view of the ocean. Much further away from Stark Tower. And even the Daily Bugle news headquarters shifted to a new building far away from Stark Tower. "So is Mr. Bruce after Tony Stark?" Fury asked. Fury and Coulson have both arrived at the house of John to ask about Tony. "Yes. Tony is rich. Batman is interested in his intelligence and knowledge. You might get a surprise when Tony comes back. Don't worry. Nothing will happen to Tony Stark," John said. "Fine, I will wait for him," Fury said. Somewhere in Afghanistan. When Tony woke up, he found himself in a cave. He saw that there was a small tube being fed inside his nose. He pulled it with some irritation. But then the reality struck him. He saw a metal circle-like device being attached to his chest. There were 2 wires connected to it and the wires were connected to a battery. He wanted to remove this, but then he heard a voice. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," said a man who was shaving his beard. "What did you do to me?" asked Tony with a desperate expression. "What I did to you? I saved your life," Tony said the man, and then he explained how this device is stopping him from death, but this battery would only last a week. Tony now was really scared. As Tony was lost in his thoughts, he heard a banging sound at the door. Soon 3 people came inside and started speaking a foreign language. The man translated the language for him. They wanted Tony to make Jericho, which he directly refused. As a result, Tony was tortured, and after that they brought Tony outside to show their weapons, which was all provided by Stark Industries. The terrorist ordered again to build Jericho for them, and this time Tony accepted the arrangement. "They will never find you in these mountains. Look what you just saw, that is your legacy, Stark. Your life's work in the hands of these murderers. Is this how you want to go out? Is this the last legacy of the great Tony Stark?" The translator said. "I shouldn't do anything. Even if I do, they will kill me, in a week," Tony said. "Well then, this is a very important week for you," the man replied. Soon Tony got an inspiration and started building the famous miniaturized arc reactor for his chest. They both got acquainted during the building process, and Tony came to know that the man's name was Yinsen. "How much energy can it generate?" Yinsen asked after seeing arc reactor. "Should be about 3 gigajoules per second," Tony replied. "That could run your heart for 50 lifetimes. Or something big for 15 minutes," Tony added to it. Now Tony had enough energy to make a metal suit out of the energy from the reactor and started building on it immediately. It took them almost 2.5 months to almost finish building the first Mark I. But soon the terrorists realized there was something wrong going on and confronted Tony and Yinsen. A bald guy approached them and threatened Tony that he would kill both if they don't give them the Jericho missile soon. Tony assured that he would finish it soon for them. In a few days' time the whole template of Mark I was ready, and as Tony was getting ready in the suit, the terrorists realized there was something wrong and came knocking heavily at the door. As the door was rigged with bomb, when they tried barging, the door blasted away. Tony ordered Yinsen to follow the procedure and load the functions. They could hear that the other terrorists were coming after hearing the blast. But Tony insisted on continuing, but soon Yinsen said that they didn't have time. "We need more time." "I will buy you time," Yinsen said after loading the whole procedure, which would few seconds to upload, and ran outside with a gun lying on the doorstep. "Stick to the plan, Yinsen." "Stick to the plan," Tony shouted as he knew what would happen when Yinsen ran out. Tony looked desperate but couldn't do anything. When the Tony was ready with his suit and started walking out, he was barraged with bullets, but they couldn't do anything to Tony. As Tony came out near the mouth of the cave, he saw Yinsen lying in a pool of blood. "We had a plan. Come on, you have a family. We are going out to see your family." "My family is dead. I am going to see them now, Stark," Yinsen replied somehow. "It's okay, I want this, I want this." "Thank you for saving me," Tony said with tears in his eyes. "Don't waste it. Don't waste your life," Yinsen said before closing his eyes. Tony got up with much anger and went towards the mouth of the cave. He didn't realize that after he got up, Yinsen's body sank into the earth as if the earth swallowed him. As soon as Tony came towards the entrance, he was barraged again by loads of bullets. But as they were shooting, there was a sudden explosion behind the gunmen who were shooting, and it instantly killed many gunmen. The terrorists moved their head to see what caused the explosion, only to see few missiles flying towards them. They couldn't even react before being blasted by the missiles. Tony was shocked when he saw it and thought the military finally found him. After the dust settled, he saw a medium-sized black-colored aircraft with exquisite finish was hovering in front of Tony. And from the glass panes of the aircraft he could see a person sitting inside wearing a black half-covered mask with pointed ears. After the glass pane slid out, the person in the mask came out of his seat and jumped to the other edge of the aircraft. And sat down on the edge while the aircraft hovered by itself in front of him, and the person just looked at Tony from head to toe. "Who are you?" Tony said. He had some guesses in his mind, but he could hardly believe his own guess. "I thought John informed you about me," the man in the mask said. "You are Batman. You really are Batman?" Tony blurted out. "Yes, I am Bruce Wayne," the man replied. "I have been watching you for over a month, Tony. I have to say I am impressed," he continued. "What? You have been spying on me? Then why didn't you save Yinsen before? He was innocent." "I thought you are a superhero," Tony said with some anger. "Relax, Tony, Yinsen is alive. He is being treated now by someone. Come in. I need to send you to the military base." They are going haywire looking for you. Bruce said. What? Yinsen is alive. How is that possible? I watched him die. Are you sure you are speaking the truth? Tony said with some agitation. Relax. I am not the only one here to monitor your situation. Even though I haven't met the other guy, I knew he was there to protect you. He took away Yinsen. I am sure he will be sent to you soon when he will be fit. Bruce said. Fine. I will trust you for now. Wait, let me remove my suit. Tony said. He chose to trust Bruce because he knew if Bruce really wanted to kill him, he could have used his aircraft to blow him up. By what he could see, he was sure the aircraft had powerful weapons system that could kill him even when he was in suit. After removing the suit, he climbed up to the hovering aircraft and proceeded to sit on the co-pilot position. Bruce too sat on his position. Don't you want to destroy your suit? Bruce commented. It doesn't matter. This suit is useless without my reactor. Tony said nonchalantly with a hint of pride. Bruce already knew the whole story from John's memories, so he didn't comment anything more. Tony was too naive for this world. He needed a wake-up call, and Obadiah would give him that. After tying the seat belts, they flew away. Tony was curiously looking at the inside of the plane, and he could see that the technology was of high level. Tony had sparkles in his eyes as he thought of many things. He had many questions, but he knew that it wasn't the right moment to ask. He needed to get back home and find out who was selling his weapons to terrorists. And more importantly, he needed a cheeseburger. Living there for 3 months was like a hell for him. Soon the Batwing arrived near the base in a stealthy manner. Go on, Tony. Go home. John will soon come to speak with you. We have a lots to discuss. Bruce said as Tony climbed down the plane. After that, Bruce flew away without saying a farewell. This guy has more attitude than me, Tony murmured. As Tony approached the base, he could see the guard tower outside. He waved at the guards. At first the guards were pointing their guns at him, but as his face became clear, he immediately called his superiors. After a few minutes, Rhodes came running with worry on his face. How was the fun, V? Next time you ride with me. Okay, Rhodes said as he hugged Tony. The next day a military airplane landed in LA at Stark Industries' private airport. Tony came out of the plane only to see Pepper waiting for him. Your eyes are red. Few tears for your long-lost boss, Tony said to Pepper. Tears of joy. I hate job hunting, she replied. Yeah, vacation's over, Tony replied. Hogan, take us to an hospital, Pepper said to Happy. No. There are 2 things to do. First, I want a cheeseburger. And second, I want to hold a press conference, Tony interjected. A press conference? Why? Pepper asked with Hogan drive. Cheeseburger first, Tony didn't answer her. When they arrived at the press conference, Obadiah was waiting for him. Tony hugged him while eating the burger. Then he saw John standing and watching him a little far away. Tony, Obadiah and Pepper walked towards John with a smile. Thanks for the heads up. You saved my life, Tony said. I am just a messenger, Mr. Stark. I am glad that you are safe, John said. Obadiah, who listened to the conversation, was shocked as he didn't know what happened in Afghanistan. From the conversation it seemed like John helped saving Tony. After thinking this, he clutched his hands in anger but didn't show any impressions on his face. Well, Mr. Stark, you should go to address the press conference, John continued. Just call me Tony from next time. I owe you a life, kid, Tony replied. Sure, Tony. Tony and Obadiah then went to the podium for the press conference. Obadiah just said a greeting and thanked John along the way. Pepper too followed Tony and thanked John for saving Tony, even though she didn't know how he saved Tony, but she was grateful nonetheless. As Tony came to the stage, he sat down and said, "Hey, would it be alright if everyone sat down? That way you can see me and I can see you." All sat down, and even Obadiah joined him and sat down beside. From a corner, Coulson approached Pepper and said, "Hello, Miss Potts, can I have some moments with you?" I don't know anything. You can ask Tony there, who is on the stage," she replied. "I am not a reporter, Miss Potts. I am Special Agent Phil Coulson of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am here to debrief Mr. Stark on what happened over in Afghanistan," Coulson said. "We have already been contacted by the DoD, FBI, CIA. We have already said that we don't know anything." Before Coulson could reply her, they heard a voice saying, "It's fine, Coulson. You will get your answers soon. He will be joining too. You really took my advice. Didn't I give you a nice abbreviation? I should get the naming rights." Hello, John. I was going to ask you too about this. Is he coming?" Coulson said as he saw John beside him. "Mr. Jameson, you know this agent? That's great. He can ask you about what happened." "I am curious too about what happened out there," Pepper said. "Please, Miss Potts. Call me John. Actually, I too don't really know what happened out there. He will come soon. You can go and tell Nick that he will contact soon," John said. After listening to this, Coulson left. "I never got to say goodbye to Dad. There are questions that I would have asked him. I would have asked him how he felt about what the company did. If he was conflicted, if he had any doubts." Tony said. "I saw young Americans killed by the very weapons I created to defend them. I have become part of the system which has zero accountability." "What happened over there?" asked one reporter. "I had my eyes open. I came to realize that I have more to offer to this world than making things blow up. That is why, effective immediately, I am shutting down the weapons manufacturing divisions of Stark International until such a time I can decide the future of the company." Tony gave the announcement while standing up, and it sent the reporters in a frenzy. Obadiah stopped Tony from saying anything more and said, "What we should take away from this is that Tony's back." After Tony came out, he saw Pepper and John and went towards them. Obadiah joined him with a sullen face. "Well, that went well. What do you think the over-under on the stock drop is gonna be tomorrow?" "Well, approximately 40 points, Tony replied. "That's a minimum," John said this time. "Well, the newspapers will be very happy to see this new development and make a headline saying you have won in this supposed war between us," Tony said to John with a laugh. "Well, then I better start buying all the stocks that I can from tomorrow." "I have great faith in you, Tony," John replied. This surprised all of them, as they didn't expect John to buy the stocks after it falls through. That would be a loss. Of course, if the company's stocks rises again in future, then it would be a different ball game. Tony just smiled at his words and didn't say anything, and took them to the big arc reactor that was built. Obadiah wanted to see the small arc reactor, as he already knew from beginning. John and Pepper also saw it after he opened his buttons. Pepper and John both gave a serious look to it. Even though John already knew the whole story, but it still surprised him when he saw the arc reactor up close. "Okay. John, come with me. We need to talk." Tony said, and he went to his car. John and Pepper joined him. Obadiah went on his own way as he has to handle the storm that was approaching for the company. They reached Tony's famous home in Malibu and entered through the gate. "I have got to say, Tony, I envy your big home, it looks stunning," John said with envy. "Well, you are okay to move here if you want. I don't have anyone other than myself here," Tony said without much giving a thought. Suddenly a voice said, "Welcome back, sir." Tony didn't reply, but John said, "Hello, Jarvis. It's nice to meet you." That's it, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching.